One of the reasons we invited you on the show, and certainly there are a lot of them, is that you are a singer-songwriter of some note here in China now, and you sing about your life in China. Could you tell us about how I mean, obviously you must have played back home in order to be proficient at playing guitar. How did you get into doing this?
Okay, I started playing guitar when I was 9. My mother in particular wanted me to learn an instrument.
Have a skill like that.
Yeah. And unlike many people, it wasn't really pushing. It was trying to encourage. So her method of encouragement was, we'll learn together. All right, we'll have lessons together. So we started with an accordion, but it was an adult accordion. Too big, too heavy. I couldn't deal with it. I was like 7. And then we went on to piano. Got a piano, and the piano teacher would come to the house, and he was too drunk. So that was the end of the piano. So we had a few lessons, and he just reeked of alcohol. Oh, wow. So finally, I don't remember how we settled on guitar, but this was at a point in time. But guitar made perfect sense. Playing guitar became very, very popular, particularly for boys. And guitar was very convenient because you can carry it with you, unlike a piano, and you can sing with it while you're playing. And you can do that with a piano, but it's harder to, it's hard to do with a violin. So my parents had a few friends. I didn't have any professional musician, but they had friends who knew how to play guitar. There's a lot of people, and they don't play folk music. And one of them was a PhD student studying psychology, and she taught me for about a year. And she was at Cal State Northridge. And she taught me for about a year, and at the end of that year, she says, taught you everything I know. So then we went to another friend who was, I think he was an electrician. And he taught me for 4 years or 5 years. And then finally I had that, taught you everything I know. So I tried to figure out what to do and see about taking other lessons, and decided not to, and I actually became a guitar teacher at 15, and I did that for a couple of years, and at 17, so at 17, 1965, so I went into I joined a couple of the obligatory garage bands.
Wow.
All right, I had a junk band, and folk rock band, and another one, and then finally that all came to an end, and I decided, well, music will always be part of my life, but it won't be my life. And I continued to play, but sometimes I was just too busy. Didn't play for a year, 2 years. But sometimes I'll ask one of my students, do you play an instrument? And they say, well, I used to play the piano, but I don't anymore. And I never said that. I always said, I play guitar. I've just been too busy, haven't played in a while. But I always played other people's music. And when I first came to China, and I'm in Jiangsu province, and I didn't bring a guitar, but I found that it was really easy to borrow guitars because many Chinese people are just like many American people. They say, oh, guitar should be easy.
And then it's dusty.
They say, oh, my fingers hurt. My fingers hurt. Or they realize, it's work. It's work. So within my first year in Jiangsu province, I was able to borrow 3 different guitars, which successively got better, all right, because people said, oh, I have a guitar, I'm not playing it, I'm not using it, and the last person let me keep it for like 8 months, all right, so, and then I finally got my own guitars. But, and I would play, after school, I'd go play every day. And mostly I wasn't singing, I was just playing with the guitar, working on the guitar. And then when I was in Jiangsu province, and I was planning, I'd been there, I extended to another year, then I went and told the school I want to stay again, and they said, sorry. Oh, and I stayed for the second, and I said I want to stay for a third year, and they said, sorry, we want to give variety to our students, so we have a policy that foreign language teachers only stay for 2 years.
Wow, that's interesting.
So, yeah, and different schools, sometimes schools have age limits, sometimes they have length of time limits but that was the shortest that I had seen. And I was replaced by a guy from Scotland, but he only lasted a year. because his accent was too difficult for students. But they want to give people different teaching styles and different
That's a great
accents.
idea,
And so
actually.
the principle makes a lot of sense. I spent 24 hours of going through every possible emotion that I could.
Can
And
I
then
add to that just real quick?
Yeah.
Because I've actually seen the opposite a lot of the time. Students and their parents are so attached to one teacher that they refuse to let them go, and they're like, I don't want to change.
But so not college level.
Yeah.
And this was the school. This was a school where the parents are actually much less involved. A lot of my students' parents know me, even though they don't live in Beijing. But at a lower level, in elementary school, I would see that would be a really strong feature.
Where did you make the jump?
Okay, so going back through all of this emotion, anger, frustration, sadness, confusion, disbelief, and it lasted for about 24 hours. And then I said, oh, it's their school. Of course they can decide who they want to hire. And I went home and sat down just to play my guitar. And a couple of hours later, I found I had written a song.
Wow.
The city was called Huai'an, and the song was called Huai'an, Promise of the Future, because every day, I'd see, here's an empty lot, and a month later, there's a building there. There's a business, not just a building, there's a business going there. And you see old places being cleaned up and renovated and all kinds of stuff. And it was just such an extraordinary experience. And you could see the future coming. And the song goes through, there were like 4 districts or 4 counties that connected to this city. And I would go through each of these. Each verse has one of these counties, and I talk about the forest or the lake or the things. But the key is the promise of the future. And Huai'an was the hometown of Zhou Enlai, who was the first premier of the People's Republic of China. So the chorus includes this was what Premier Zhou wanted.
There's a lot of information for one song.
It's amazing. It was quite an extraordinary song. And it's not that long. It's only a couple minutes long. But immediately after, I had done some work for the Foreign Affairs Office of not just the school, but the city, because there were not a great many foreigners there, and sometimes they would contact me about helping with some project. And I called them up, and I said, I need to come see you right away. So I printed it out. I brought my guitar. I got down to their office, and I said, and I started naming other people. Get them here. Get them here. I said, I have a gift for you. So I sang this song. I gave everybody a copy of the lyrics, and they said, play it again. Play it again. And I played it again, and immediately the deputy director of the office looks over at one of his staff members and said, get that translated. Do a translation of it. So she not only did a translation, but she then has a friend who is a poet who turned it into something that could be sung in Chinese. I've never sung it in Chinese. I don't know how to sing it in Chinese, but apparently it's very beautiful. And so this was song number 1.
Yeah.
And I came to Beijing, and then I started writing more songs. Now, I have to admit, until it took a little while, sometimes people say, oh, you're a songwriter. And I'd say, no, I'm not a songwriter at all, because I didn't plan to write any of these. It was sometimes I'd be walking down the street and lyrics would start pouring into my mind.
This is right out of your book.
All right? Sometimes I'd be sitting at the guitar and I'd start to sing something and I'd have to write them down. All right? After the first dozen or so, I started being able to, okay, I'm going to write a song about this. And I could write a song about that. Sometimes I'd be traveling and I'd take a few notes and I'd say, I'm going to write a song about this, right? And some of them were planned, some of them weren't planned. But after the first dozen or so, I said, yeah, I'm a songwriter. Because I developed the skill to be able to do it. And then probably at least a half a dozen songs are songs that I was asked to write by someone. CCTV News, no, or maybe it was it CC? It would have been CG, maybe CGTN asked me to write CCTV. It was CCTV 4. In 1949, not 1949.
About 1949?
No. Oh, no. 2015. They organized a series of documentaries. I think it was 6 documentaries, which was originally called Red Dream Chasers, and they later changed it to Red Dream Catchers. And it was about foreigners who had been in China.
Do you know Fernando? He's one of the people in that documentary.
Really? From where?
He's from Colombia.
No, but this was Joseph Needham and Edgar Snow and Israel Epstein and Norman Bethune.
About historical.
And these were historical figures who had been in China during the War of Resistance to Japanese aggression and their contributions to that. And there were 6 of them. So I can't remember why. Well, they had contacted me about participating in this. Actually, the first thing they wanted me to do is they wanted me to do a talk about Norman Bethune. So, and they knew I had had some familiarity with some of these foreigners and their stories. So they also asked me to write a song for the series, and which I still call Red Dream Catchers. All right, and I think maybe that was the first song I was asked to write by somebody, and I ended up not being interviewed in the Bethune one. They didn't use the song. They used a different song that I wrote about Bethune. And
one that was not requested.
No, I had already written it, and I gave it to them. So they used that in the Bethune story, but I was interviewed for the Israel Epstein story. And at that time, I hadn't written a song about Epstein, but I since have. So I have about 6 or 7 songs about these old foreigners, and the Red Dream Chasers was a general overview without mentioning particular people.
Wow.
But so probably 6 or 7 different songs that I've now written upon request.
I've seen you perform on stage in front of what looks like hundreds and hundreds of people. So you have toured 15 provinces.
I've sung in 16.
16.
I've been in 29.
Could you tell a little bit about what it's like performing for an audience here in China, your music?
It's very exciting. And in the early days, it was quite, again, I hadn't particularly been... I play guitar. Every once in a while, I would perform in the United States, usually for some kind of benefit to raise funds for our organization, but not very common. And often they were most of the people I would know, or many of the people I would know, or so on. And so when I first started, it was kind of a little nervous. But, ultimately I was just explaining to someone who asked me to do something, and I had to say, I have to admit, and I've done a lot of presentations. I've given lectures in addition to teaching at more than 65 Chinese universities, some of them many, many times. And I've spoken at other kinds of activities and events and so on. And I just love being on stage. I just love being on stage.
You mean as a guitarist singer? Or
Speaker,
in all of these capacities?
Any capacity. Yeah. Teacher, right? I think I told you I'm dying to get back into a classroom. I'm dying. My classes don't start for another week, and the vacation was too long. I need to be back in a classroom. I just get energy from it. And part of what happened in the stage, I think maybe the photo that you saw with the really big audience, that was one. I've had 4 performances with 40, 50, 60,000 people in the audience.
Wow.
Not quite Shea Stadium and the Beatles, but really extraordinary things, great experiences. And I perform my songs. Every once in a while I'll perform something else. In the early days, people always wanted Take Me Home, Country Roads. And I can sing that, but it's not my preference. And but one of the things that Fuhan long ago said, you know what? It's good. You sing your songs. That's great. You tell these stories, but you got to sing some Chinese songs.
Can you?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's why I said I sang Ganwen Lu Zai Hafang.
Wow. I didn't know
in
you
Chinese.
sang it. I
can sing a lot of
played.
Chinese songs. The hardest part, I have a whole process through which I learn. I don't speak Chinese, and I don't read Chinese.
You've learned some from singing. A few
very
words,
tiny.
some phrases.
Yeah, very tiny. But my pronunciation is pretty good. My pronunciation is pretty good because Fuhan not only... So now if I can hear a song, I ask somebody, I need the MP3 of the song. So I can play it over and over and over. And then I get the words, and if I can't find them in pinyin and only in characters, I'll send it to somebody and say, put this in pinyin for me, please. I have a lot of students who will help me that way. And then I have to learn how to play it on guitar, because if I play it on guitar, I can control the key and I can control the tempo. And I need to do that. And then I have to learn the phrasing. So I'll just over and over, and I'll play along with it, and over with the phrasing.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And the hardest part is remembering the lyrics, which is all done phonetically. All right? And that's the hardest part. And I can sing a number of songs, that I've remembered. But some of them I've recently learned that I haven't played them in 2 years. So my memory isn't particularly good on those. But if I have the lyrics in front of me in pinyin, I could sing 40, 50, 60 songs right now.
Very impressive.
Okay.
Well, we've asked you to bring your guitar along.
I got one.
You've brought one. Very
one.
accommodating, very kind of you. Would you play us one of your songs today?
I will sing one of my songs. This was one that wasn't originally intentionally written, but no, I won't sing that one.
Okay, sure.
But it's the same. It
Singer's
was one
choice.
that wasn't intentionally written at all. And the reason I decided to sing this instead is it has some Chinese.
Okay, great.
Right.
Then we get everything.
Now, I've had a lot of contact with CCTV and CGTN, various capacities. And in 2009, I was fortunate enough to go on a TV show, which in English is called Star Road. In Chinese, it's Xingguan Dadao. All right? And it is a combination of a talent show and an entertainment show. So on the one hand, you want to show off your talent, but the director from CCTV decides, is this entertaining?
Yeah.
Nope, you need more musicians. Nope, those are not the clothes to wear. No, no, you're not going to sing that song. You got to sing a different song. No, all kinds of stuff. So you have to learn to cooperate with that.
Yeah.
And I said, I was only on one show. I came in second. And when I had to try out and did various things. And finally, when they said, yes, we want you, and I said, okay, there's one condition, however, I have, that it's a possible of, it starts with a weekly show, and if you win that, you go to a monthly show, and if you win that, you go to a annual show. So I said, for whatever number of shows I'm on, I want to sing one of my songs. And the response was, no problem, except if you are going to sing, you either need to sing a Chinese song or whatever song you sing must have Chinese in it.
Wow. So hence this song.
So we had to get it translated. And not only did we need to translate it, but then when I'm doing it, she said, you need some background singers. So I'm thinking of the Supremes. But no, Chinese songs. And what then happened was my agent found 3 young Chinese female singers, none of whom spoke English, none of whom have ever sung English, and who didn't know each other. But they were all represented by the same agent. They worked out okay. And they all went on the TV show with me. Like when the moon controls the sky, my love for you I can't deny. With your every wish I will comply, just for you, my lovely Asian eyes. On the day we met, you stole my heart. I knew from you I would never part. As our love grew, it was no surprise. Just for you, my lovely Asian eyes. 就像月亮照亮夜空，我对你的爱毫无保留，我会答应你的每个请求，我个爱带着双眸 ，and I know my bride you will never be, 'cause like a bird in the wild you must be free. Still the joy in my heart will never die, just for you, my lovely Asian eyes.
Bravo.
再来一个。
I got okay. How about Chinese?
Yeah,
I'll do-
sure,
I'll
absolutely.
do
Yes,
单文
yes.
再have fun. 你挑着担，我牵着马，迎来日出，送走欢笑，打平坎坷，上大道，都把艰险有出发。啦啦啦啦啦啦啦啦啦啦，一帆帆春秋冬夏，一重重酸甜苦辣。敢问路在何方？路在脚下。敢问路在何方？路在脚下。
Bravo. Wow, that was very impressive.
So I don't sing it the way it's on the TV shows. TV show is very slow.
Yes, you changed the tempo for
I
your...
changed the tempo. And one last thing about that particular song. If I'm invited to some activity to sing one song, that's the unless somebody had
That's
a
the one.
specific that's the song.
Thank you.
Or if I have a longer show, then that's the first song. That's the first song.
To get everyone on board.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's very,
it's a
and
crowd
then I can go
pleaser.
into, and every Chinese people are very excited, and sometimes people will sing with me,
Wow.
and I'll sing it twice, and I'll ask them, Ichi.
Wow, when you go to... Next time you have a big performance, can you invite me? I'd love to see this.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Had a great time.
Yeah, me too.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yep.
You know what you mentioned earlier about your friend saying that you put him back on the right track? I feel the same way.
Okay, very good. Well, I think you're on a good track here sharing this. This
Thank
is
you.
very good.
Thank you.
Hello.